Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Do you ever just feel like the world is this chaotic flood of data, noise, and completely random events? It can honestly be a bit overwhelming sometimes. But what if I told you that beneath all that noise, there's actually a hidden architecture? Today, we're going to use some really basic detective skills to decode all that chaos through the magic of pattern recognition. And I promise you, by the end of our time together, you're going to see your daily life, and really all the data flowing around you in a completely new light. So let's just start with a really simple question. How do you know what happens next? Seriously, think about it for a second. You manage to predict the future every single day without even realizing it. You probably know exactly how a conversation with your boss might go, or exactly when your local coffee shop is going to get hit with that morning rush. You're constantly anticipating what's around the corner. But how exactly are you doing that? Well, you're doing it by recognizing patterns. Okay, let's dive into this a bit more. Think about a super familiar morning sequence. You wake up, pour that much-needed cup of coffee, and head out the door. Now, these aren't just random events happening in a vacuum, right? They're deeply ingrained routines. They happen in a highly specific order, literally day after day. Our everyday lives are fundamentally built on these predictable habits. From managing how we work to knowing exactly when the grocery store restocks its shelves, we're constantly navigating a world that's built entirely on repeated actions. Right. So what exactly is a pattern anyway? Simply put, it's just a sequence that repeats predictably. And these elements can be almost anything. We're talking numbers, shapes, text, colors, or even physical actions. Just like in math, where we see rigid sequencing, we also see repetition in the deliberate strokes of a painting, the predictable cycles of the weather, and, like we just talked about, the daily actions of our own lives. It's kind of like the invisible thread connecting seemingly unrelated things.
And honestly, the coolest part is how this brilliantly illustrates that patterns cross over into entirely different domains. Think about that comforting CCDD rhyme scheme in your favorite song or poem. That's a structured pattern built entirely out of words. Then look at nature, which is basically the ultimate designer. You've got the V formation of migrating birds catching an updraft, or the absolute mathematical perfection of a sunflower spiral. These all follow highly specific, repeated rules that govern how they exist.
So the big question is, why do these patterns actually matter? Well, spotting these frameworks gives us this incredible superpower of predictability. Whether you're looking at the comforting symmetry of a design, a connected series of numbers, or figuring out exactly what happens next in someone's behavioral habits, recognizing the pattern puts you one step ahead. It basically takes all the guesswork out of the equation and lets you anticipate what's coming.
Let's zoom out for a second, moving from our everyday human habits to some real macro-level observations. When we step back and look at time, we're evaluating data collected over days, months, or even centuries. By simply observing over a really long period, we can identify these massive variations, like the continuous cycle of day and night or the changing of the seasons. Recognizing these huge repeated events allows humanity to orchestrate everything from global agriculture right down to our personal daily schedules. It's truly incredible how much we rely on this without thinking about it.
Okay, let's put on our detective hats and apply this locally. Imagine you've got a weekly basketball game. You realize a very distinct behavioral pattern. Consistent, daily practice directly correlates with a massive spike in your points on Friday. But on the flip side, skipping practice completely tanks your performance. Because you notice this connection, the guesswork is totally gone. You know exactly what works, and you know for sure that waiting until game day to put in the effort is a pretty flawed strategy.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how that tiny, simple basketball observation actually scales up into advanced scientific fields. When we start dealing with massive amounts of information, finding similarities means sorting data that share certain characteristics. This is what takes huge, messy, chaotic data sets and turns them into manageable, meaningful branches of knowledge. It just goes to show how our basic human observation roots itself deeply into some of the most powerful analytical tools we have today.
And to tackle all that data, we have some absolutely incredible modern tools. We sort and filter data to find shared traits, and we rely on brilliant data visualizations to make complex datasets understandable in a heartbeat. From there, statistical analysis connects the dots between different factors, showing how a change in one variable cascades right into another. And ultimately, this allows us to train machine learning models that can spot these patterns and make predictions entirely on their own. How cool is that?
But here's the catch. Whether you're a human being or a highly advanced machine learning model, there is a massive pivot from simply seeing data to actually understanding it. Observation is totally passive. It's just asking, what did I see? Drawing a conclusion, however, is active. That's where you ask, okay, what does this actually mean? And you start explaining exactly why a certain trend or weird anomaly happened in the first place.
So, how does a data detective actually do this in the real world? Well, it starts by identifying key findings. Say you notice a sudden spike in consumer engagement on a Tuesday. From there, you look for repeating themes, spot any bizarre irregularities that stand out from the norm, and then you throw all those numbers into a visual graph where hidden relationships suddenly just leap off the page. It's a seamless, continuous flow of connecting the dots.
Once you've got those sharp observations locked in, you form a general rule. But, and this is absolutely crucial, a great detective always knows their limits. If your dataset is too small, let's say you've only tracked a local market trend for a single week, you really have to acknowledge that your conclusion might not apply globally. Expanding way too fast based on limited data is a classic trap. It's all about letting your current conclusions spark better, more refined questions for your next round of analysis.
All of this, the pattern spotting, the observing, the concluding, it all builds up to our absolute ultimate goal: decision-making. This is about leveraging the information you've so meticulously gathered to choose the most beneficial path forward. It's turning hindsight into a proactive strategy. Honestly, good decision-making is exactly what separates the people who just watch the world happen from the people who actively shape their own outcomes.
Let's look at how incredibly rapid-fire this is in daily life. You look outside, you see dark clouds, and based on past patterns, you conclude that rain is imminent. So you instantly grab your umbrella. Boom. It's a completely seamless action, taking literally less than a second of thought, but it relies entirely on your accurate historical pattern recognition to keep you dry.
Or think about your morning commute. You spot heavy traffic building up ahead on your usual route. Knowing that sitting there is just going to make you frustrated and late, you immediately pivot and choose a quieter alternative road. In that moment, you're using historical data to bypass a mistake before it even happens. You are effectively altering your own future for the better.
And, the stakes can definitely get even higher. If you review your budget and spot this creeping trend of increased expenses, you realize that without an intervention, you're going to run out of funds soon. So you make a deliberate decision to start saving money immediately. That right there is the immense power of turning a raw observation into a smart, proactive choice that actually secures your financial future.
So look how far we've come. We've gone from the raw chaos of overwhelming data to spotting these beautiful, simple patterns in nature and in our daily routines, all the way to drawing hard conclusions and making really smart life choices. The power of observation is entirely in your hands right now. So I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as you go about the rest of your day. Now that you know the hidden architecture behind it all, how will you use pattern recognition to make a better decision today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes open, keep analyzing, and I'll see you next time.